It is shocking the amount of political and social indoctrination and stuff that they can fit into a single meeting. And keep in mind, I don't know if I'd be as aggressive about this stuff if test scores were through the roof and kids were succeeding and attendance was great, but it's not. It's not across the entire state's public school system. But in the Olympia School District, test scores aren't great. You're looking at like failing levels for math and English language and science. So here you've got academics declining, enrollment down. They've got to close some schools. It's happening in Seattle too because attendance or enrollment is down, attendance is down. So they're not getting the money. So they've got to close some schools, and they're focusing on the most insane stuff. So we're going to go through, just to give you an idea of how prevalent this really is, we're going to go through some of the insanity. Nicole gets an A+, and our friend Alicia Perkins, who with OSD Rescue, who, God bless her soul, monitors these school board meetings. It's just
all
insane.
her, man.
So one of the school board members who was featured in our documentary, she went on some anti-police rant when she was a candidate for school board. That was included in the documentary, but a lot of it focused on what's happening inside a classroom at Orla, the Olympia Regional Learning Academy, which is part of the Olympia School District. So Jess Turtelot-Palumbo, again, went on an anti-cop rant that we played in the documentary. She, in this meeting, just wanted to send some positive vibes to the staff at Orla.
It's been a really powerful week in terms of education. And I also just want to lift up Orla, the families, the staff, principal. I just wrapping you in a lot of care right now. And I just want to be very upfront about that, say that. So I appreciate you all so much. Bye. Or not bye, but I'm good for now. Thanks.
Don't laugh, Nicole. That is Olympia School Board member Jess Turtelot-Palumbo, clearly in reference to the negative attention that Orla has received because of our documentary. So, they don't think that there's any problems with what we presented, which is just, it's mind-boggling. It's not like we presented one example, two examples, three examples, four examples. We presented dozens of examples of really troublesome behavior. And as a school board, to ignore it entirely, act like we're the problem and, we're just thinking about Orla in this time of need is insane to me. So now on to other business, right? They, briefly referenced in some fashion the documentary. So let's focus on education, right? Nope. No, let's focus on making sure that high school kids have what they need to have sex.
Some other students and staff from OHS and I worked on getting point E added, which is having physical barrier and contraceptive devices available at all middle and high schools. So condoms and dental dams will be available in the health rooms because, well, one, sex ed is mandatory now at all high schools, I believe, by Washington state law. So, having the actual tools to safeguard yourselves during sex, which is something high schoolers do, is important. So, safe sex is important.
Okay, I shouldn't laugh because she said, high schoolers have sex. I agree, high schoolers have sex. They also said middle school. Yeah. So you're going to have condoms and dental dams available for middle schoolers, you sick people. Like, okay, condom. If you don't know what a dental dam is, how can I say this without...
Do you really have to? I mean, it's pretty self-explanatory.
Yeah, it's what a woman would use if there were going to be mouth to,
yeah,
guard against, okay. So you're going to put that in a middle school? That's so weird and creepy. And she says in there that it's because, can you play that again, Nicole? I might cut it short, but can you play it again?
Some other students and staff from OHS and I worked on getting point E added, which is having physical barrier and contraceptive devices available at all middle and high schools. So condoms and dental dams will be available in the health rooms because, well, one, sex ed is mandatory now at all.
Sex ed is mandatory. Putting condoms and dental dams in middle schools and high schools is not mandatory. So that has nothing to do with sexual education. I understand that condoms are part of sexual education at a certain level, but it's a whole nother thing entirely to put them, you're not their parents, it's encouraging. And it is broaching the conversation about from middle schooler. It's like, what's this? Well, that's a dental dam. Let me explain to you what a dental dam is for. It's really wild stuff. It doesn't stop there. It's totally normalizing it. And you think, again, one of the things we talked about in the documentary is there was a sixth grade sex ed lesson, 6th or 7th grade sex ed lesson, and the teacher put all these things up on the board. It was like anal sex, abstinence was on the board, permanent sterilization. But then she talked a lot about anal sex and permanent sterilization to 7th graders as an option. Think about that. Permanent sterilization. And the students we spoke to in the documentary said that's what she talked about more than anything else. And she didn't actually go over abstinence. It was on the board, but that wasn't what she talked to kids about. She talked more about permanent sterilization and other forms of sex where you can't get pregnant. Wild stuff. Let's see. Also, there was a policy they wanted to make sure to talk about, supporting pregnant persons when they go to feed their children via their chests.
I do just want to point out that supporting breastfeeding employees, there's no change from first reading, but just a reminder that the policy actually will read supporting breastfeeding, chest feeding employees.
Yeah, chest feeding employees. Okay, gotcha. So that's all in one meeting still. Let's keep going. So before I get to these next clips, I have to remind you of who Talana Reed is, also featured in our documentary. Talana Reed was a woman appointed to the school board to fill a vacancy. She ended up running for the school board for a permanent seat, but she didn't get it. So she is not on the school board right now, but she continues to show up to school board meetings. I'll get to that in a moment, but as a reminder, here's Talana Reed's greatest hits.
The police, both black women were murdered by the police. And it amazes me how those pigs can sit over there to watch us peacefully talk about what we want changed in this state. It amazes me. And they don't pay attention until we tear it up. So just before I get started, tear everything up in this city until they do what we want them to do. If I can't beat them, if I'm not going to join them, but I'm going to infiltrate, and I'm going to get in there, and I'm going to be a voice from the inside. They've deemed me a threat to security, and they need to. There are poor white people. There are marginalized groups that are not people of color. White folks, you had a 400-year head start. I do not feel sorry for you if you're poor. We need to tear for that. Town that is historically racist. I mean, that's the culture of the city. You guys are changing that, but we cannot change it until we actually infiltrate.
Yeah, so we thought, oh gosh, great. She didn't win her school board seat. So Talana Reed, who encourages rioting, who's clearly racist against white people, who said herself that she would be a security threat in the school, and then was like, well, she was temporarily on the school board, put in charge of school security. Anyway, so she lost her race. So I thought, well, we're done with her, right? No, she has been routinely showing up to school board meetings, including this one where the chest feeding, condoms, dental dam conversation was happening. And she shows up at these meetings and sits there, and just as a member of the public, right, and preaches to the school board, the wokest school board perhaps in the entire country, about how racist they are.
How many conversations does a person have using the N-word that they don't know that they can't remember when they used it? Now, let me tell you why both of you should not be serving students and staff. You have caused me irreparable harm by calling me a liar, basically. I told the truth. And the two of you conspired to cause harm to a black woman by co-signing the other's lies. There have been, I don't know how many families that have formally complained of racial discrimination or racial violence. And you all on this board have determined, have had to determine whether or not those incidents happened. How many times did you rule in favor of the families? 0. And Darcy saying that I'm using the race card makes me want to cuss, but I won't. Instead, I'll say resign now, please.
Thank you, Talana. Thank you for your service on the CAC and on the board.
Thank you for. So you have this black woman who has said all these insane things that led to her not even being elected to such a crazy school board, despite, it's really progressive, but she took things a step too far. But she's coming back to these meetings regularly. They regularly give her additional time. So parents who show up, they have like a strict time limit, right, for their public testimony. Talana Reed shows up and accuses them of being racist and goes on these rants about how, and she's setting them up for a lawsuit. I don't know how she can't see that. She's setting them up. This all goes back to one of the school board meetings. Like one of the school board members was reading something that had the N-word in it, allegedly. But he was reading like a hateful message. And Talana Reed has used that. And now she's clearly setting them up for a lawsuit saying the school board is racist. And she's making that case by showing up, testifying as much. I mean, I give it a matter of weeks before she sues the school board for discrimination, saying the school's racist, most progressive school district in the freaking country, racist, all of this. And then, this is how crazy this is. Think about this. As a parent, they cut you out. They don't want to tell you things. They don't want to talk to you about lesson plans. They tell you that if you don't like the political and social agenda that they're pushing on your kids, that you can just leave the school district. But Talana Reed, this absolutely fringe activist who shows up and accuses them of being racist, she, not only does she get extra time, they took out of this meeting nearly 3 minutes. So a little background. So there's this transgender individual always comes to the meetings with Talana Reed and uses their time to praise her work and stuff. So asks the school board for a moment of silence for Talana Reed. Okay, hold on a second. Think about this. Woman, she has no business, she has no official business there. She's just a black woman who says the school district has discriminated against her. And because they're so woke progressive and can't say no to insanity, the room sits in silence for Talana Reed for almost 3 minutes. Go ahead.
I am speaking tonight in support of former director Talana Reed. I'm here to uplift her voice and her words. I have no intention of rehashing or elaborating on what she said tonight, as she's been clear as crystal. Nor am I going to do the work to explain to you the obviousness of the harm she's holding you accountable for. I will say, the work you think you've done so far on said harm is not enough. And with that, I'd like to leave the rest of my time as a moment of silence so you can take a couple more minutes to reflect on what she said earlier.
Literally, they all sit there in silence for the next 2 minutes and 30 seconds. Completely acquiescing to this mob that's calling them the most progressive school board in the nation, probably racist. You can skip forward to the end, Nicole. I don't think I can do 2 minutes of silence. Are we almost done yet?
This is the final 10 seconds here.
Thank you, dear Lynn. Thank you, dear Lynn.
Thank you so much for making us sit in silence and reflect on our racism. You guys, what are we going to do? This is insane stuff. We're going to work on some more follow-ups to what's happening in the Olympia School District. But again, it's not really just about oh, look at this crazy district and chest feeding and condoms and all this stuff. This stuff is sick. If I take it back to seriousness, this stuff is sick. It's detrimental to the education of kids, and that's why we care about it. Think about all the other actual academic discussions they could be having at this school board meeting, rather than sitting in silence for 2.5 minutes for some woman who says they're racist, who's clearly building up a lawsuit, rather than making sure that the language and stuff says chest feeding and not breastfeeding, rather than talking about the need to put condoms and dental dams in middle school bathrooms. And they focus on all of that to the detriment of the education of students. And that is the problem. And it's not just happening in Olympia. It's happening across the state's public school system. It's why Chris Rakedall does not deserve a third term as the superintendent of public instruction. David Olson is the change that we need in order to get us back. He says his primary focus is a return to academic vigor. And if this doesn't show you why that is a clear and present need, man, I don't know what will.